Hi everyone, it's Candace Craw-Goldman back again with another What a Great Question. And there's some really fun ones coming in, but this one's pretty basic from a newer person interested in past life regressions. So the following question comes in via email from Michelle, who lives in Rhode Island. I think she's a younger person with some of the other things that she said, and this is great. I love it that the young people are asking some of these questions. Dear Candace, I am just now discovering the concept of past lives. I hope it's okay to ask a very basic question. And yes, of course, Michelle, it is absolutely okay to ask a very basic question. They're my favorite kind to answer, actually, and I love beginners. I love beginning explorers, beginning quantum healers. You're my favorite people out there, by far. So please keep those questions coming. And here's her question. Do your clients ever ask about how many past lives they've had? Did Dolores Cannon's clients also ask this question in her time? So we're going to answer that, of course, in both for Dolores and for myself. And yes, of course. Dolores Cannon was asked this question, and I've been asked this question too. Very often, actually. So Dolores Cannon wrote and spoke about this concept often. Clients very often accessed memories from multiple lifetimes, and occasionally from dozens or even hundreds of lifetimes or experiences. So thinking back, what she shared or implied across her books and teachings, her lectures, there were some common themes that Dolores mentioned about numbers of past lives. So many clients had numerous past lives, and her very first book, it wasn't the first again published, but it was the first she ever wrote, was called 5 Lives Remembered. And of course, there it is. This person remembered 5 lives. But this was really considered a breakthrough at the time, especially for Dolores. It was extraordinary, and that sort of set the stage for Dolores asking more questions and continuing her exploration with past lives. So Dolores often described clients accessing anywhere from 5 to 10 lifetimes in a single session, depending on the purpose and the depth of the regression. Some of her earlier clients and earlier book projects focused upon repeat clients, but towards the end, single session clients comprised the majority of her books. So of course, yes, and many of my own clients asked that question and had experience of multiple lives, and that continues to this day. All right, so let's talk about how Dolores talked about this. And there's a couple of books I want to mention. First of all, in the In Between Death and Life book, and then also in the Convoluted Universe series books, she shares examples of clients who've lived hundreds or even thousands of lifetimes or experiences, especially souls who had been on Earth since early human incarnations or even before. And, you know, I kind of feel like I was in that group because my regression with Dolores, I was this new kind of human who was really a caveman. Okay, so back to Dolores. She often talked about younger souls versus older souls, and sort of had a working definition of what that was. The new soul, the old soul, and she actually placed numbers on it. So she described newer souls who may have had only, 10 or 20 lives, again, as new souls. And she described old souls who've had hundreds or even more lives. And old souls were often seen as tired or weary and more eager to complete cycles and ascend beyond the Earth incarnation system. And we meet a lot of you out there, these old souls who say things like, I'm done, I don't want to do it anymore, I've had it with being here. A lot of people want to go back to their home planet or back to their soul family and find this experience tedious and are ready to go. But of course, not all lives were on Earth, and they're not all physical lives either. So many of Dolores' clients, and of course many of my own BQH and QHHT clients, remember past lives that are not on Earth. They've been on other planets, in other dimensions, as energy beings, light beings, or other forms of consciousness. One that comes to mind to me right now is one that I speak about at the very first of the chapter that I write for Alison Brown's new anthology book called Heart Horse. I start with this experience that I had in a regression where I experienced a horse, but not as a horse life or not as a human. And I know that's a tease, but I'll talk about more of that later when the book is actually out and available. But it was an extraordinary experience, both from the consciousness exploration perspective and to explain how and why I love horses so much. So when a client talks about having many lives, they might include, again, non-human and non-Earth incarnations, not just past lives as humans. And many of my own BQH sessions are now comprised of these type of clients. All kinds of life forms, all kinds of experiences, not just human. Not all, but really most at this time. It didn't used to be that way, but most of them are now. So what was considered rare for Dolores? Well, she considered it rare but not unheard of for a client to access over 1,000 lifetimes during session work, meaning being able to access those lifetimes to be able to answer other questions or access the information from those experiences, having the whole smorgasbord, the whole library of information present during a session. That still is not particularly common. Usually it's more focused than that. And she would talk about being present during the very beginnings of Earth. That's pretty common. Many of my clients have that experience, and they at least reference it when they reference some of the main reasons that they're there for a session. But it's also rare for a soul to be incarnating for the very first time ever on Earth. And Dolores did describe these first timers too and referred to them as volunteers. You might recall or know about her very famous book called The 3 Waves of Volunteers. That term volunteers has really taken off in the spiritual community, and a lot of people talk about themselves being, first wave, second wave, or third wave volunteers. And these days, to have a client asking these kinds of questions or actually finding that they are this kind of volunteer is more common than ever for all quantum healers to experience. So the question of how many past lives have I had? Yes, both Dolores and I have talked about this question being sort of a common curiosity. But Dolores used to emphasize, and myself as well, that the number of lives that you've experienced is far less important than the patterns, the traumas, the lessons, the soul contracts, the learning, all of that carried from these lives. So really, less people than ever ask this question in my own sessions, and my guess is those busy quantum healers out there who've been at it for a while feel the same way or have the same experience. Quality and relevance of the experience or the lifetime that you experience completely outweigh the quantity. And what matters most is what you carry into this life, what you're meant to resolve, how you can expand your consciousness and adapt and grow and learn from being here, right? So a specific example from Convoluted Universe series, one of Dolores's Convoluted Universe series books. In one session, a client stated although their higher self had over 300 lives on Earth and several hundred lives elsewhere, Dolores, in this exchange, one that I found, didn't bat an eye, suggesting it wasn't extraordinary. And what she said and what the SC talked about there and what we talk about as quantum healers is this particular concept. And it's tough for us to figure this out and have it sit in our head nicely. But even though we mostly seem to experience time as linear, it's really not linear. Some people think of it as a spiral. Some people think of it as circular. Some people think of it as all-encompassing, that it's happening all at the same time. And I actually have this idea of it being spherical, which is just my own take on it. So time is not linear. So all of these lifetimes may be happening simultaneously. Now, of course, that's from a higher dimensional perspective. And this means that how many kind of becomes a fractal or even a nonlinear question, and does it really matter, right? So I wanted to touch upon my own personal experience about this idea of how many lives. I don't know that I had thought about that question at all, but it was early on in my experience as a quantum healer that I had a tandem quantum healing session with my husband in New Mexico. What is a tandem quantum healing session? Well, it's when two people, or more, but two people lay down, go into trance together, and have a joint experience. And those are wildly different, and they can come out in many different ways. And we've talked about that before here on this channel. But it was my first experience with it, and it was where I was the client, my husband was the client, and a trusted, experienced quantum healing practitioner friend was the practitioner in this situation. And in that session, my own SC called me a human life junkie. Said that I loved coming to Earth and that I've experienced countless lives on this planet, both human and otherwise. And I'll throw back to the horse experience that I touched upon a minute ago. My husband Tom's SC, though, described the exact opposite for his experience. Apparently, he has had only minimal experiences with lives on Earth. And the sense kind of was, you know, we're in the same soul family and soul group. And I'm like, come on, let's go experience this together. Let's go have this adventure. And whether it is a descriptive thing that's really personal to me or not, I kind of felt like the kid who loved to ride the roller coaster, having, you know, the friend come along who wasn't quite sure about that roller coaster, but I talked him into it. Yeah, so we've often partnered up for exactly this reason, where I am having him come with me because I think this is grand and wonderful, this experience of being human on Earth and other kinds of lifetimes for sure. And it has certainly proven to be a memorable human life for both of us so far, and hopefully we've still got a long way to go. So my own focus and emphasis with BQH, Beyond Quantum Healing, is exploring multidimensional consciousness rather than simply counting lifetimes. Does that mean don't bring that question to a session? No. It doesn't, because you might learn something like, you know, kind of like I did in that tandem session, even though I didn't bring it up. My husband's SC actually started the whole conversation before my SC chimed in and kind of filled in the blanks. It's still a valid question to bring in a session. And I want to thank you once again, Michelle, for the question. And please know that we love your questions, even absolute beginner questions. Absolutely. So those of you listening out there, email, text, or leave a question in the YouTube comment section below. I'd love to hear from you. And how many lives do you think you've had? And have you asked that question in a QHHT or BQH or other quantum healing session? I would love to know. And while you're at it, leaving a wonderful, interesting question or a comment about numbers of past lives, please consider subscribing to our channel. It would really help us out. We would be forever grateful. Thank you. Okay, so if you are an alternative or energy healer of any kind, please know that you are welcome to join us, our listing service, our community, our support forum at quantumhealers.com. We are guru-free and we welcome all kinds of practitioners. And we love to share ideas across all modalities. All modalities are welcome. We also have a learning platform, and this is where we offer BQH, and which is Beyond Quantum Healing, and also QC, which is Quantum Connect classes. And these classes are online and ready when you are. And they never expire. And more classes are in the works. I actually have several in the works, several uncompleted classes. And we'll get to them. I stay busy with clients, family, animals, my volunteer work, and exercising these days. Yep. All right. So bye for now. Thanks again. See you later.